Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser along here with Justin and Alfredo. Got a busy show today. We got joint practices with the Patriots and Eagles. AJ Brown, he just spoke. We got, we'll recap the first week of the preseason. Red Sox, they've won 2 in a row. Rushman's starting to get hot, and Roman Anthony and Trevor Story could be back. But we got to start with the Yankees. They got a good win last night. They won 3-1 over the Orioles. Carlos Rondon threw four innings, only gave up 1 run through 66 pitches. So he looked pretty good. Bullpen was able to close it out, and Trent Grisham came up big. So this Yankee team, they've been up and down. And the big reason is because of the bats. Thankfully, it looks like Bellinger is going to be coming back soon. It looks like Cody Bellinger is going to be coming back soon. But if this team, but where they are right now, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs. The big question is, are they going to catch the Rays? Rays aren't playing as well. They're 5 games out, but good win tonight. And they got to beat teams like, I know the Orioles are in that wild card race with all those teams under 500 in the American League, but it was good they got the win last night. It was a good win in Baltimore, and because it was a tough week this week. It was a tough week up in Toronto, losing 2 out of 3. So it was nice they were able to get a win in Baltimore last night.
Yeah, it was. Rondon, I thought stuff looked pretty good. He just gave up that 1 home run to Koi Mayo, who's been actually hitting the ball pretty well lately. But other than that, I thought he pitched pretty well. Los Santos out of the bullpen's been really good. So another you got a couple innings from him, which is nice. But yeah, the bats just is the problem. We talked about it last week. At least Trent Grisham is starting to come on. He had all 3 RBIs last night, so he's starting to hit the ball better. It sounds like Bellinger will be back at some point this weekend, which is huge. So yeah, it's just kind of continue just to stay above water, which kind of doing, but you're still also losing ground. You're only up 2.5 here on Boston, where you do want that home field advantage in the wild card because it's going to be tough to make up that lead in the division right now. So, good start to the week in Baltimore, and hopefully they could get at least one of the next 2. But Warren hasn't pitched well, but Chris Bassett hasn't pitched well. But I think it seems like Chris Bassett always pitches well against the Yankees.
Yeah, he does. He faces Will Warren, too. Will Warren struggled his last start. Thankfully, the offense bailed him out last week against the Mariners. But, yeah, I think they take 2 out of 3. I think they're going to take 2 out of 3 here. I think they're going to take 2 out of 3 against them. I can't see how they're not, because Cole's pitching tomorrow night. So, yeah, I think they're taking 2 out of 3 here against Baltimore. But you said it with Grisham. And, with Bellinger back, you need to start hitting, and he has. He had a great night last night. And then he was good the week before, that game against the Mariners where he hit a big home run. So Grisham has got to start, as you said, Grisham's got to start hitting, or he's going to be out of the lineup, and he's definitely done that.
Yeah, he definitely has. Right now they're not projected to face a lefty until the Boston series, and I think Boston might have 3 of those 4 games. Boston's going to have a lefty on the mound. So yeah, for Trent, he's got to keep breaking here for the next week and a half here, and Jazz just right now looks borderline unplayable with some of his at-bats. But he's got to start to figure it out, hopefully, but it's getting late early for him. So, for those guys, those lefties, and the tough decision is going to come down to this weekend is when Belly comes back, do they send Spencer Jones down or they DFA Ahmad Rosario? That's going to be interesting what roster moves they make there. But yeah, the bats just, again, you mentioned it, without Judge. And in baseball, players should not be as big as a factor as they're such a. The lineup should not revolve around one guy, but for the Yankee team, it revolves around Aaron Judge, and that's a problem. And we've kind of known that now for the last since he's been out.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely has revolved around Judge because the offense has definitely went downhill since Judge has been out. And going back to your point about Spencer Jones, I think Spencer Jones gets I think Spencer Jones unfortunately goes down. We're like Elliot Ramos. That looks like a terrible trade right now. He's been god awful for this team. So that looks like a terrible trade. So, but I think Spencer Jones, I think he's the one who gets sent down when Bellinger comes back. I think that's the move because obviously you get Bellinger back in left field. I think you keep the way Grisham's hitting. I think you obviously end up keeping him in the lineup. So yeah, I think the move is going to be Bellinger goes. Unfortunately, Spencer Jones goes down because at third base, you need some more offense at third base because McMahon's good defensively, but he can't hit. So yeah, I definitely think the move is though. I think the move is Spencer Jones gets demoted. He gets sent down to AAA.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Unfortunately, and he's had some good at bats, and at least he's kind of proven that he could hit big league pitching. I know it's still a 211, but I like the at bats he's had. I know he's in a little bit of a cold stretch here, but at least you kind of know that somebody that you can rely on next year. They could be a big league player. So yeah, it'll be unfortunate to see him go down, but yeah, I know they like Rosario because his numbers against left-handed pitching is pretty good. But again, because they're not facing lefties for a while, he's not going to be in the starting lineup for probably another week and a half. So, but I'm with you. I do think Spencer Jones be the odd man out here, and it's unfortunate. But
yeah,
because at least like McMahon's hit a little better, but yeah, he's still I think 215. Like it's not great, and the same thing with Jazz too. Like he can't hit right now either. So yeah, you need that batter Rosario who could play some infield as well.
Oh yeah, you do. You definitely want Rosario in the lineup. Yeah, and unfortunately, it looks like this looks like it's the end. It's the end for Spencer, especially when Bellinger comes back at the end of this week. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's from my opinion, it definitely looks like it's the end for Spencer Jones. It just does. It is because because unfortunately you have to keep Elliot Ramos, which is why that's just trade. Yeah. It was I mentioned earlier, which is so bad. You didn't need to keep him. You didn't have to keep Elliot Ramos. So yeah, that's exactly why Spencer Jones has to go down.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Ramos. Well, he usually rakes against lefties. Right-handers, his numbers have always been worse. But yeah, I figured the home run numbers playing at Yankee Stadium were going to go up. It really hasn't yet. Probable of 3 of the 4 games he faced against Boston are lefty. So maybe that's the weekend he starts to go off and catch fire, and that would be huge because if they could somehow take 3 out of 4 from Boston and get some leeway there for that home field advantage, the wild card would be very nice.
Exactly. But the thing is, he's got to catch fire because if he doesn't, I want him on the bench. I obviously want him on the bench because say, what were you going to say?
Because my thinking is they're going to have Santa come up. Their hope is September 1st when the roster expand.
Yeah.
And when Judge comes back, is that when they send down Ramos? Or because you trade it for him, you keep him around and then get rid of Rosario. Like that's going to be the.
I think what's going to happen in that case when they're going to unfortunately get rid of Rosario. I think they're just going to keep Ramos on this roster. Yeah. But again, and at that point, if they're going to do that, please have Jazz play third base. Please have Jazz play third. Please. And because as I said, my projected lineup is Wells behind. I know he sucks, but Wells behind the plate. Bryce at first, Garcia at second, shortstop Lombard, third Jazz, center Grisham. Right Judge, left Bellinger, and DH Stanton. That's my lineup when everyone's back. But so unfortunately, it looks like 2 guys who are going to be the odd men out. It's going to be Rosario, and I think it's going to be Spencer Jones.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think it's going to be both those guys. That probably will be, when Judge comes back. So yeah, that's why I think they're going to hold on. The hope would be Stan can come back September 1st, gives them a month to ramp up and get ready for the postseason. So I'm with you. I think those are going to be the 2 men out, unfortunately. Even though because I do like Spencer Jones, but I haven't seen the Migas numbers down at AAA lately. I think he's 140 since they called him down with like 12 Ks. So
oh man, that's terrible.
I don't know if we're going to see him anytime soon.
Hey, I don't think so. I don't think. Yeah, I think the Martians' days could be ending for the Yankees. I think the Martians' days could definitely be ending for the Yankees. But one key injury, though, we get Rendon back, but Max Fried is now going back to the IL, and the big question is can the Yankees catch the Rays without Max Fried? It's got to be 2 weeks. He's got to be out 2 weeks. If he's out more than that, I'm going to say no. But if he's out 2 weeks, they might be able to catch the Rays because the Rays aren't playing that well right now. They've lost 4 to 5. So I think they have a chance if he's out like 2 weeks, but if he's out more than that, no.
Yeah, the weird thing is why, they still say he's throwing, but it's like this is already the same elbow injury that he's had earlier in the year where he missed, about 2 months. That worries me. We're only in year 2 of his deal, and this is the second time he's already had an elbow injury. He's been a guy that, has been injured throughout his career. Yeah, if he misses 2 weeks and it's just a Phantom IL thing, he gets called back like September 1st, somewhere right around there when the roster expand, then I feel better. But again, I don't trust anything that comes out of Aaron Boone's mouth when it comes injury. So,
Exactly.
that's but yeah, because Frida when he's on his game is better than Rendon. Like
Oh, without question, yeah.
so you rather so like that's why you rather have Fried than Rendon, and they're gonna need Fried if they have any chance to come back in this division.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he'll have to stay out for the 15 days. If it's more than that, no, I don't think they're going to be able to make a comeback. Yeah, I mean, he had a great year last year, but this year he's just had issues staying healthy. And I know we got 5 more years left of this contract, so he's had issues staying healthy. There was issues. There was those kind of issues in Atlanta. So we'll see. We'll see. So I mean, last year it looked like a good deal, but this year. Yeah, he's pitched well when he's been out there, but the key word is when he's been out there.
Yeah, when he's been out there. And last year they had to push him because Cole was out. And I think last year was the first time in his career he went over 200 innings. Because he pitched how many? 195 in the regular season, and then he pitched how many in the postseason? He pitched 9 innings. So that last year was the first time in his career he pitched over 200 innings, and I think you're seeing the effect of that. And I think whenever you sign a pitcher to a long-term deal nowadays, you're gonna lose 1 year to probably Tommy John. You just are nowadays. So you're always have to take that effect. It's unfortunate, but this is the effect of last year having to push them because you didn't have a Garrett Cole. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but no, because are we ever going to see Cole, Fried, and Rendon ever together? Those three? Because we haven't yet.
We might at the end of the year. I'm hoping at the end of the year. Maybe by that Tampa series.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's a chance it might not happen.
Yeah, it might not. And it'd be great to get back for the postseason because that's your rotation right there of Cole, Schlittler, Fried, and Rodon, and that's a great 1 through 4 right there. You might only need 3 anyways for that. And actually, Ron Weathers.
He's playing great. He's been great.
Forgot, yeah. So
I mean, that Will Warren's obviously going to be the odd man out, and the Reds. That's obvious. He's going to be the odd man out when if everyone somehow if Rendon, Cole, Schlittler, Fried, and Weathers are healthy, he's definitely the odd man out. Seeing the way Weathers pitched, and Weathers pitched a great game on Sunday. I mean, going up against Cease, and there was a good chance if we lost that game, we would have gotten swept. That was a huge performance by. It's too bad he didn't get the win, but that was a huge performance by Weathers on Sunday.
It was. Remember too when Yankees fans are a little bit disappointed when they didn't get Edward Cabrera because they didn't like the medicals. That's the pivot to Ryan Weathers has been a great move by Cashman. It really has been.
You got to give Cashman credit on that one. You definitely have to give. You definitely got to give Cashman credit on that one. But this weekend, Yankees face the Blue Jays. They head to the Bronx for a 3-game set. Yankees opened up a 10-game homestand. Got 3 with the Blue Jays, 3 with the Astros, and 4 with the Red Sox. And it starts Friday night at the stadium. And Toronto has named a starter. Schlittler going for the Yankees Friday. Then you got 2 good pitchers for Toronto though going on Saturday and Sunday. You got Cease going again. You got the rematch. You got Cease against Weathers Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday you got Soriano against Rendon. I think they take 2 out of 3. I just don't think Toronto's good enough offensively. I think the Yankees are even with the injuries they have, they're the better team. I got the Yankees taking 2 out of 3 here.
I think they take 2 out of 3 as well. I'm very nervous, but they've lost the last 4 Schlittler starts. That's a game you should win. They lost the bullpen when Toronto threw Simon Woods Richardson the other day. Yeah, they lost. So I think this time at home they get it, but I expect them to take 2 out of 3 in Toronto. But it's a big 10-game homestand. You got 3 playoff caliber teams coming to your building, so hopefully they take care of business. Be a good start to take 2 out of 3.
It definitely would be. Yankees right now 5 games behind the Rays in the AL East, but they are in good position. They have the first wild card in the American League. We'll move on to the team with the second wild card in the American League. That's the Red Sox. They were struggling a little bit. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates, but they got back on track these last 2 nights against the Diamondbacks. Scored 11 runs, won 11-1 last night, won 9-4. No, 11-1 on Monday, won 9-4 last night. And Adley Rutschman, who's still only hitting 192 since he's been with the Sox, but the last 2 nights, 4 hits, 1 home run. His first home run as a Red Sox last night, and he got 4 RBIs. I think the Red Sox. I think that they're in good shape right now. They're in good. Even though they lost a couple games last week, I think they're still in really good shape. They're in really good shape to get that second wild card spot, potentially get that first wild card spot because they got that big series with the Yankees coming up next weekend. And yeah, I'm liking what I see from this team. I'm definitely liking what I see from this team, and they're going to be getting reinforcements back. It looks like they might be rushing them, but it looks like Story could be back. By this weekend series with the Giants. And then you look at Roman Anthony. He had a big night last night in Portland.
Yeah, absolutely. And they get those two guys back. Would be huge to the team. I know Roman hasn't had a great second year here, but he's been out for most of it. And maybe you get Story kind of coming back, veteran guy. I know he's kind of struggled to play too this year, but another a veteran guy here that you get added in that you could kind of play around a couple spots in the infield would be big for that team. But yeah, the bats have started to kind of wake up again after tough weekend against Pittsburgh. But yeah, against an Arizona team that's been playing pretty well, and that's fighting for a wild card spot right now. So yeah, if they get those two guys back here, and you're playing a bad Giants team coming up this weekend, you're playing a Miami team that hasn't played great since pretty much since the All-Star break. Before going to New York, there you're trying to get a shot there to take that first wild card spot over.
Yeah, they definitely have a shot. Next week is a huge series in the Bronx for that. I mean, really, it's a huge series determining who's gonna like the Yankees. Last year, the Yankees had home field advantage in that wild card series against the Red Sox. It's a huge series to see who's gonna if they're gonna be playing that wild card series at Fenway or if they're gonna be playing at Yankee Stadium. That's a huge series. But yeah, look at the Red Sox. Yeah, they struggled. Obviously, they struggled last week. Losing 3 out of 4 to Toronto and losing 2 out of 3 to Pittsburgh. They had a rough road trip, but they got back on track. And Adley Rutschman, to me, him and Contreras, they're the keys. And the thing is looking at this team right now, if you look at their pitching, good enough to win a champion, good enough to compete for a championship. Look at the bullpen, good enough to compete for a championship. The big question is the offense, but looking at the way Rutschman's hit the last 2 games, you got Contreras in that lineup. You could potentially get Roman Anthony and Trevor Story back. This offense that was terrible for the first 3 months of the season could now looks like it's good enough to compete and get and who would have thought we'd be saying this, get to a World Series in the American League, who would have thought we'd be saying this, represent the American, good enough to represent the American League in the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now that Yoshida's going to be pretty much out for the remainder of the year, and Rafael too is kind of Rafael's been on a tear too of late, and he's up to almost 290. And then Caleb Duran too in that lineup, who got off to a terrible start, but is putting up some really good numbers and has made Breslow kind of that move, getting rid of Bregman, making him kind of look like a genius. That you spend a lot less money on Caleb Duran playing over instead of Alex Bregman. So yeah, you get Roman back, you get Trevor Story back, which it's be tough to find spots for Trevor Story to kind of get everyday minutes or run every day in that lineup. But the way that lineup could hit, if Roman comes back and hits the ball kind of like he did a little bit last year, and if Trevor Story can kind of find it where especially the way he ended last year's Story. So the Red Sox definitely represent the American League, especially because it's really the 3 American League East teams, and I guess you can trust Houston with their pedigree, but it is a different Houston team. Like it is going to be one of the 3 American League East teams that are going to represent the American League.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I don't think the White Sox are going to do it. I don't think this is the Astros team to do it, and whoever gets that final walker spot, I don't think is going to do it either.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, Houston has the pedigree, but their pitching isn't what it wants. Yordan Alvarez might win the Triple Crown. Their pitching isn't what it once was. Yeah, I mean, you look at, clearly the top 3 teams in the American League are the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Yankees. So, yeah, I mean, all 3 of them have a really good, all 3 of them have a good chance to get to a World Series, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Red Sox, the season looked lost, but it looked like they were going to might fade a little bit, but they've really picked it up the last 2 days. And now we'll move on to their series with San Francisco. And it's the big question really is did they make the right move moving on from Devers? And it looked, to give Craig Breslow credit, it's looking like they might have, just because of the clubhouse chemistry. It's looking like they might have.
Yeah, he got nothing for him in return.
That's the thing,
that's the thing. But like the Giants are trying to ship out Devers the trade deadline. It sounded like they were looking to move him. So yeah, so far it looks like they've made the right move on him. I know Devers, that 25 home runs in Oracle Park's pretty good in August with that, and especially for a lefty because hit a ball in a Covey Cove, the pull one is you don't see that very often. So there still the numbers are it's so solid, but yeah, it seems like Craig Breslow's made the right move there with the chemistry and it sounds like too Marcel Myers might be activated too, who another guy they just traded for the Giants this weekend as well. So two former Sox making their return this weekend.
Yeah, that should be interesting this weekend as they make their return at Fenway. And if you look at the series, I think the Sox take 2 out of 3. Webb is going. I think if they could sweep them because they played so well at Fenway. They played so poorly at Fenway before that Yankees series, but since that Yankees series, they've been great at Fenway. So I think I'm going to go 2 out of 3 though. I think Webb might beat him on Friday, but then you got Gray and Sandoval. So I think the Red Sox take 2 out of 3 here.
Yeah, they should. That's a great pitching matchup Friday night, Gray versus Logan Webb, and you should get Saturdays. I think it's Tidwell going for the Giants, but Sandoval has not pitched well. Then Bennett's kind of got hit hard this last couple, doing it Carson Wentz Hunt, who's not great either. So could be some fireworks this weekend at Fenway, but I do think the Red Sox take 2 out of 3. Maybe Devers goes on a tear this weekend, steals one himself, but I do expect the Red Sox to take 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Sox take two out of 3 here and continue to roll. And they got that huge series coming up in the Bronx, 4 games set in the Bronx, starting next Friday as the Red Sox and Yankees go at it. But we got to shift our attention to the NFL, and we'll start with the Cowboys. And they made some more news this week, signing Von Miller, 1 year, $7.5 million. And I think he's going to help him. He's going to be a situation. I mean, he's obviously not even close to what he was in Denver. Even though he had 9 sacks last year, he had a decent year in Washington, but he's not close to the player he was in Denver, even with the Rams when they won their they won a Super Bowl in 2021. But I think this move just adds depth. It adds depth to their defensive line. They traded for Rashawn Gary. They have Devin Azaraku. They obviously traded for Quentin Williams in the middle of last season. So I think it just adds depth to that defensive line. It adds depth there. And the question really is as we said it last week, are they a playoff team? I'm still going to say no. I'm still going to say no because I just got some issues with the back seven of their defense. I know they got D Winters and Caleb Downs, but I still have issues with the back seven of that defense. The offensive line is average. And I think the main issue is the team's undisciplined. They led the league in penalties last year. I just don't think you can win a championship with Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach. I'm not a fan of Brian Schottenheimer. I really am not. You lead the league in penalties, that's lack of discipline. It's on the head coach. I know people like Brian Schottenheimer. He's a nice guy, but the guy was fired 3 times as an offensive coordinator. He won 7 games last year. I know they got rid of Micah before the season, and everybody, I know they got rid of Micah Parsons right before the season, but I just think that, and you saw yesterday with their joint practice with the Saints, that was disgraceful. The way they were fighting, they were constant fights the entire joint practice. They almost had to stop the joint practice. I mean, you look at you compare the joint practice with you guys and the Eagles today. There were barely any fights. Those are 2 teams that are probably going to be playoff teams this year. And then you look at the Cowboys and the Saints. It was a mess yesterday. So I like the addition of Von Miller. It adds depth, and I think on paper this roster is average to above is above average roster, but I just think with the coach, and I'm not a fan of Schottenheimer. He's a great guy. He's a really nice guy, but I just don't think he's a very good head coach. I'm going to say no. I still think the Cowboys are not a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they are either. Still, I was surprised when I saw he had 9 sacks last year, but he's a guy now in his upper 30s. I think he's 37 years old now. It just doesn't move the needle for me. I agree with you. It's kind of just a depth move. Maybe you get 8-9 sacks out of him this year, and I think the Cowboys would take that any day of the week. But this doesn't move the needle. This doesn't give me another win or 2 on their schedule to say, oh, this team's going to win like 10 games. So I'm with you. I think this team's going to still miss the playoffs. They're still like a 8-9 win team, somewhere right around there. And the offense is good, but yeah, I still have questions about their defense. And I'm with you. I didn't like what I saw yesterday in their joint practice. Was it with the Cardinals?
It was with the Saints.
I think. Oh, was it the Saints? Oh,
they've had different joint practices because they're out in California. They've had different. It's weird. Yeah, they've had different joint
they
practices
keep crying out
with
there
different teams. I don't know who this. Let me check. I don't know who the Saints are playing. Maybe they're out. They're going to be out in California.
because I
That's
know they're
why.
playing the Saints in week 3 of the preseason.
Yeah, it was weird that they played them.
So that's
Because
weird.
usually you have your joint practices. No, it made sense. They're playing.
Fine.
The Saints are in LA to play the Rams, so it made sense. They had the joint
Oh,
practice
okay.
because the
Yeah.
Cowboys and Rams had their joint practice last week, but they didn't play each other. But now, yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
The Cowboys and Saints had their joint practice, but they're out. They're out in LA to face the Rams. But yeah. To me, I just think it comes down to the head coach. I think the roster is good enough to not win the Super Bowl, but make the playoffs. The quarterback's good enough. I think is good enough to win the Super Bowl, but I don't think you can overcome overcome the defense and this head coach. So I just don't think the head coach is good enough. That's why I don't think they're a playoff team. And if they don't make the playoffs, I think they should move on from Schottenheimer.
Yeah, and we'll see. Jerry's can be a little fault at times. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they were to move on from either, especially if it's a disaster. And like you said, they lead the league in penalties. Like they did last year. If they do that again this year, maybe they only win like 6 games, and I could absolutely see Jerry showing him the door and going out and getting another head coach. So, thing is, the last time around, nobody wanted this job. It felt like, and that's why they settled on Schottmeyer. And
exactly, yeah.
Who would want this job next year? I know it's the Cowboys, so somebody will, but it's not going to be your first, second choice.
No, especially dealing with Jerry Jones.
I know one guy who probably take the job who might need one down in Chapel Hill.
Oh man! Let's not get. Let's wait to get. We won't get to that now. But that could be a story. Seeing how both team seasons go. But we'll see. But I think it's a depth signing for the Cowboys getting Von Miller. But I still don't think they're going to be a playoff team. But moving on to the team they played in their joint practice, and that's the Saints. And they got a big loss on Monday. Jordan Tyson, he's going to be out for 2 weeks. For 2 months, 2 months, Jordan Tyson's out. This is going to be a big loss for the Saints because this was the guy that was supposed to take pressure off Chris Olave and really help Tyler Shuck grow. Now he's out the first 2 weeks. So it's definitely a loss for the Saints, seeing that he was a top 10 pick for them.
Yeah, he was. But this has been the problem with Jordan Tyson. He's missed time every year in college at Arizona State, and he's missed significant time. So I'm not – you feel bad for the kid, but, this was a risk that the Saints were willing to take when they drafted him, and so far it hasn't. It's not going to pan out that he's going to miss a couple months here of the season. And it's a team that I really thought could win the NFC South this year. I don't think I'm going to pick them now because I thought Tyson, because I'm with you, is going to take pressure off because after that they don't really have much behind Chris Olave. So I think it's a big loss for the Saints, but he missed a ton of time at Arizona State, and that was my big kind of red flag on him. During the draft was, could he stay healthy? And unfortunately, he's not going to be healthy for he's going to miss some time here.
It definitely looks like he's going to miss the first 2 weeks. And you brought up with the Saints, they were the team. They were kind of the trendy team, and they still could win. Let's be honest, they still could win.
Yeah,
they still win that division, but they have some injuries. Kamara, I know he's not their featured back anymore. Etienne is, but he's going to be out. Now you got Jordan Tyson who's going to be out. But they could still win that division because that division is the worst division in the league. And you saw it, the way Atlanta looked on Friday night. They looked terrible against the Broncos. So, and you look at all the issues going on in Tampa, and we'll see if Carolina could. They won the division, but they only won 8 games last year. We'll see if Bryce Young could be consistent. But it is not the way the Saints wanted to start the year with Tyson out and not having Kamara for the first month. They're not going to have Kamara for the first month. They're not going to have Tyson for the first 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Kamara too. I know he's getting up there in age, but still been an impact guy for him, and him and ETN in the backfield. So that division. So because even the Panthers didn't look great against Buffalo, went right down the field most of that game against them.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Could easily still, win that division. So they could, but losing Tyson, losing ETN are definitely losses there. Especially too where
losing Kamara.
Kamara,
not ETN,
yeah, because their first 2 weeks you're going to Detroit and Baltimore, 2 teams that could score some points, and it'd be very nice to have Tyson and Kamara back, helping your your better offensive weapons there. So definitely tough losses.
Yeah, it definitely is. It absolutely is. But now we'll move on to the Patriots, and they had their joint practice, first day of joint practice with the Eagles in Foxborough ahead of their game on their game on Saturday night against the Eagles. And the big story before we get to what happened on the field. The big story, obviously, you got to talk about A.J. Brown, and a couple of things that stood out. He spoke after the joint practice. I saw it. And a couple of things that spoke out. He said, at first he says, "Oh, it's all love in Philly." It's all three things that stood out. He says, "It's all love in Philly. It's all love in Philly." And then they asked the question, "Have you spoken to Jalen Hurts?" And you kind of knew what the answer was going to be. It was a no. It was definitely a no. And then then his comments about Drake May. There have been some difficulties, but he's definitely made my job easier. I think it's obvious. It's obvious, and I think everyone knows there were issues. There were definitely issues last year, the entire season, with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. If you watched that Eagles offense last year, you know there were issues with the two of them. But it seems like him and Drake May are on the same page. It definitely seems like, and it seems like he's buying into things going on in New England, which is not a surprise seeing the success he had with Mike Vrabel previously in Tennessee.
Yeah, it is. Makes it a little bit easier for somebody that wasn't a huge advocate of bringing in AJ Brown, but it seems like he's saying all the right things about the Patriots side of things. I know May and Brown's lockers are right next together, which is good. So it seems like they hopefully have a good connection going. But yeah, you obviously could tell that last year AJ Brown, that that Eagles offense, and him and Jalen Hurts just weren't on the same page a lot, and AJ Brown would let his displeasure known after every game, where if he only got a target or two, he'd hear about it. So it was time for the Eagles to move on from him. I think I'm glad he didn't start anything today. I was a little worried that they get into it, but seems like he behaved himself, and that was my concern coming to these joint practices. Was can he behave himself against his former team?
He did. There wasn't any fighting at all. And a lot of Eagle players went up to him. I don't think this was an issue between him and the Eagles. I think this was an issue between him and Jalen Hurts. I think it really was an issue between him and Jalen Hurts. And we'll see we'll see what happens there. But and you look at both guys' days, I feel like AJ Brown, from what I've read, had a better day than Jalen Hurts. I think AJ Brown actually looked good. I think Drake May connected with them on a couple deep balls. The Patriots offense looked good against good Eagle defense, and that definitely should give you optimism that this team is definitely going to be contending again for a Super Bowl because of the way. And this offense is clearly better. It's clearly better, with the addition of AJ Brown and Romeo Doubs. You got to the Super Bowl last year, but I think this offense is clearly better going into this season, and it's looked that way in the two joint practices.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good to hear that things look good today. That May and his wide receivers are on the same page. I think AJ Brown made a pretty nice catch as well. So yeah, like the weapons are their weapons are better than they were last year. Sure, now is with kind of how's this the offensive line's got some little bit of injuries. I know they kind of signed a couple of some free agents to kind of get some depth there in the offensive line. But yeah, like if they can protect Drake May, which is my biggest concern with this team, then I do think he'd be able to spread the football out. You're going to play some better defenses this year, and that first in Seattle is going to be it's going to be an interesting one. To see how much better they look offensively they did in that Super Bowl, and it's going to help that you have AJ Brown and Romeo Doubs as his two top guys.
Exactly. Absolutely. It definitely will. And now looking on the defensive side for the Patriots, I heard that the run defense actually struggled a little bit against the Eagles, which the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball. Eagles are going to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to run the ball better than they did a year ago because this offensive coordinator, Hurts, is going to be under center more. They're going to run the ball more with Saquon. They're probably going to play more 12 personnel. So I think they're going to be able to run they're going to focus on the run game more with Saquon, and they don't have to force feed AJ Brown in situations now. But their passing game, the Eagles' passing game struggled. Patriots did a good job with that, picking off Jalen Hurts a couple times. It looks like it's a work in progress with the Eagles with Sean Mannion. But I think from what I read, it looked like the Patriots' defense was better. I know Mekhi Lemon and Devontae Smith didn't play, which are big that Lemon and Smith didn't play. But it seemed like, especially against the pass, Patriots' defense actually looked pretty good today.
Yeah, it did. I heard up front the Eagles did kind of control them.
They did.
But I guess that makes sense with the run game.
With the run game, yeah.
But the secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I think that's something that's probably going to happen, and the secondary is going to have to kind of be kind of the biggest factor, which we talked about last week. And sounded like the secondary played well, which is good. Especially, I know the Eagles didn't have two of their top wide receivers there, Smith and Lemon, but still good to hear. But again, that's kind of my one concern this year is the defensive line and just getting pressure on the quarterback. And that kind of, the secondary is going to make up for that, but at some point, against the Josh Allen's and the Patrick Mahomes of the world, it's not always that's
It's not
not
going
going
to
to
work.
always be
It's
the
not going
case.
to work. If you can't get pressure against those guys, it's not going to work. Against Allen, Mahomes, and even Caleb Williams late in the game, that stuff's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not. So that's my concern here, but we'll see. But yeah, but it's good to see the secondary played well because I think we're gonna have Gonzo back at some point here. Just a matter of, I think it's a matter of when, not if. So we'll see. And we get him back, one of the best cornerbacks in the sport. That secondary gets even better.
And you led me to my next point with Christian Gonzalez, and he was out again of joint practices. He was out again for the second week in a row of joint practices. Now, Vrabel said last week that his absence was injury related, not contract related. I still think it's contract related. I mean, and you said it. It's a matter of when, not if. Seeing that Devin Witherspoon just got paid. So within the next week, I think he's going to get his deal. He's going to reset the market. He's going to get 34, 35 million APY, which he obviously should. I mean, he's the top three corner in the game. He was arguably the best player on the field during that Super Bowl, so he absolutely should get paid. So, again, you said it's a matter. You said and I agree. It's a matter of when, not if he's going to get paid. But if we're sitting here next week and he hasn't gotten paid yet, it starts to be concerning, seeing that you're going into the season with your best player unhappy with his contract situation.
Yeah, if we're not, now that Witherspoon signed, if he's not done by next week, then I will start to be a bit concerned. We'll be 2 weeks out, so there's still a bit of time. I would assume he's not playing next week anyways against Cleveland. Like I'm not worried about him about not getting the preseason reps or anything like that. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think he's going to reset the market. I think he's going to get 34, 35, somewhere right around what you said, right around somewhere in that range. And I think it's going to be done next week. He said all the right things this year or this offseason about the contract stuff. So I'm not thinking he's one of these guys that really wants like 40 million or something. I think there was a report the other day that he wants like 18% of the salary cap, which I thought was bogus. So I'm with you. I think it's just a matter. I think it's when, not if, at this point. So I feel pretty good that it'll be done by this time next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be. I think by the time when we're sitting here next week doing the show, I think he's going to be paid. I think he's going. I think he's going to be paid. I think the ball's in their court now. The ball's in the Patriots' court. They just got to get it done. And with a quarterback and a rookie deal, it would make sense that they get it done right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one more because you're getting pretty close. Because it's arguably year 3 of Drake Mass, so you're getting pretty close to having to pay him $60 million a year. So you rather get the Gonzo done stuff sooner rather than later, and I think they will. And again, as I said, next week those are your two cornerstones: May on the offensive side, Gonzo on the defensive side. So that's a nice combo to have with those two for hopefully the next 10-15 years.
And it definitely could be. It definitely will be. It definitely will be for the Patriots. Now you move on to the Giants, and they lost their preseason opener to the Vikings. But and before we get to the big takeaway from that game, and we obviously know what the big takeaway is, you look at the performance by the Giants. I'll start with the positives. I really like Malachi Fields. Malachi Fields continued to impress me. I really like that touchdown pass by him. So that really impressed me in that game. It really did. But a negative, obviously, is a couple negatives. The run defense has got to get, especially up the middle. I know they got Arvell Reese in the middle now and Tremaine Edmonds, but the run defense in the middle is got to get better, especially the defensive tackle position. I know Shelby Harris and DJ Reader didn't play, but Darius Alexander's got to get better against the run. They have got to start stopping the run because we saw what happened last year against the run. They were terrible against the run. I know they adjusted it. Drafting Arvell Reese and Tremaine Edmonds is going to help, but still, they were not good against the run. When the Vikings, that one series, the Vikings had their first team starting lineup in. Offensive line is still, I think, a little bit of an issue, especially on the interior. And then, obviously, the play that everybody's going to talk about. The play everyone's going to talk about, Jay Ward came in on the safety blitz on Jackson Dart. That has got to be picked up by Tyrone Tracy. And let me tell you, John Harbaugh responded right away by signing Najee Harris. So he's put Tyrone Tracy on notice. You cannot miss that blitz because that play wasn't on Dart. And you can get on Dart. You had to go in the 10 on Saturday. You can get on Dart for all the times he's been reckless, and he has been reckless. But Saturday was not on Dart. That's on Tyrone Tracy. He's got to pick up that blitz.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not great. That was bad. That was not on Jackson Dart there. There's got to be fear though that are we sure Jackson Dart can play 17 games? I know you have a capable backup in Jameis. Now I love watching Jameis play, but if he was on my team, he'd make me a little nervous because you have no idea where that football is going to.
Yep.
But yeah, hey, Harbaugh training the culture, going out getting Najee Harris, who is great at picking up, as you mentioned. He's great at picking up those blitzes.
Completely responded to what happened on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a change in the culture. So, yeah, I don't blame Jackson Dart for that. My worry is, can he stay? Because that's what his 6th, 7th visit to Blue Tent already. That's can he play a full 17 games? And I'd be worried about that if I'm a Giant fan because I just don't. The way, as you mentioned, the way he plays football, can Harbaugh rein him in? And I think he can. But, he's not afraid to put his helmet down and go take a hit. And that's not really what you want your quarterback doing. He's got to.
Yeah, you don't want to be doing that. Absolutely not. And the one thing I'm going to say is, if he gets hurt and he's in that tent, and he was in the tent, he was in the tent on Saturday. The head coach ain't going to be in the tent. He's going to be coaching the football team. He's going to be coaching the football team. He's not going to be in the medical tent. He's not going to be in that medical tent like Brian Daboll was last year. But Brian Daboll was pretty much acting like Jackson Dart was his kid because that was Brian Daboll's savior to keep his job. But that was how he was kind of the savior for Brian Daboll, but it ended up not working out because of other issues with Daboll, special teams and defense and all that. He just couldn't coach the entire team, and it was obvious. So let me tell you one thing. There is no way that John Harbaugh is going to be in that medical tent. He's going to be coaching the team. He's going to be coaching up Jameis. He's going to be on the sidelines, with Matt Nagy coaching up Jameis Winston. So, yeah, Dart definitely, I'll admit this, he's got to learn. He definitely – now, Saturday is not on Jackson Dart. But ultimately, seeing what happened in his rookie year 5 times in the tent, yes, he needs to learn how to protect himself. Or, yeah, that's going to be huge this year because if he's not on the field – Jameis is a good backup, but as you said, you don't know where that ball's going.
Yeah, that's a problem. He's gonna unleash the football, but yeah, you don't know where it's going. So yeah, Dart. Yeah, that's the thing. Can Harbaugh rein him in? And now the good thing is at least Harbaugh is used to a quarterback that can scramble out. Now Lamar's great at giving himself up and not taking those big hits. So maybe Harbaugh can help him with that case. But yeah, that's the big thing for the Giants this year because that's all. Because there's a part of me at the Giants is some of the defense you guys play this year, it's those are he's gonna take some big hits at
for
some
example,
point.
Houston, a game like Houston, they play the best defense in football in week 7. Philadelphia,
yeah,
and I would played well against Philly in that
Rams.
Thursday night. Rams week 2 right there, right off the bat with the Rams, yeah. So yeah, he's got to learn to become. I mean, yes, I like the running ability, but he's got to win from the pocket. He's got to win from the pocket, like all the great quarterbacks do. You could run around all you want, but if you can't stay out, your best ability is availability. You saw that with Eli Manning. His best ability was availability, and it resulted in the Giants winning 2 Super Bowls. So yeah, he's got to. Yeah, Saturday wasn't on him, but he definitely has got to be. He's got to learn to. He definitely has to protect himself, or as you said, he's not going to play 17 games.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that Giants want to get to where they want to go. They got to have Jackson Dart out there for 17 games, and that's the thing. That's a big question mark right now with Dart. But look, you expect a second year, the sophomore jump from the sophomore leap from Dart and the new offense. So maybe it'll take some time. We talked about it last week, but I think you're going to see a jump from him.
It's definitely going to take some. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes time because Nagy has already admitted. Matt Nagy's already admitted that he struggled a little bit in this new offense. So I think it's going to take time. But by November, December, I think this offense is going to be pretty good. It might take time, but I think it's going to be pretty good by November, December. But ultimately, the only way this works though is if Jackson Dart stays on the field.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. They need him on that field to be successful this year. So Well, I like Jameis, but again, if he was my backup quarterback, he'd make me very nervous. So,
Yeah.
it's entertaining to watch, but yeah, he'll make you sweat.
He definitely will. He definitely will. So Giants this week, they're in Miami, have joint practice tomorrow with the Dolphins, and then they play their preseason game in Miami on Saturday. But because the first week of the preseason obviously came to an end. On last Saturday. But we will give our five biggest takeaways. Our five biggest takeaways from week one of the preseason. And I'm going to start. I'm going to start with number 5. And I think the Bills' offense has potential. I don't know if they'll win because the first year coach. I don't know if they should be. I don't think they should be the favorite to win the AFC, but I think their offense is potentially the best in the league, and their head coach is an offensive guy in Joe Brady, and he's still calling plays. So I think especially with the addition of, I really like the addition. I mean, DJ Moore is not great anymore, but he's definitely better than what the Bills had. He's definitely better. He's a guy who could beat man coverage with something the Bills did not have last year. So Josh Allen will see a lot more. The good part is he'll still see more zone coverage. Things are going to open up for Josh Allen. So. And obviously, they're one of the best running backs in the game in James Cook. So I think the Bills, number 5, have potential to be the best offense in the league. Seeing the way they played against the Panthers, seeing the way they went right down the field both times against the Panthers with Josh Allen, I think the Bills have potential to be one of the best offenses in the league. Number 4, I did not like what I saw out of Cam Ward. I know he had that good first drive, but then after that, he had an intentional grounding. He was missing receiver. He was very inaccurate, 5 for 12 against a backup defense, against a 49er team that was playing all backups. I did not like what I saw out of Cam Ward. I really didn't. And I thought he might be good this year. As you know, Brian Daboll is not a good head coach, but he's proven his time with Josh Allen to be a good offensive coordinator. But it seems like just like Jackson Dart, Cam Ward is off to a slow start in that offense. He did not look good in that preseason game. Number 3, the Falcons could be in for a long. I was high on the Falcons, but then I saw Tua. He looked terrible. I know Bijan wasn't playing, but he looked terrible. In that he looked terrible against the Broncos. The Falcons might be in for a long year, especially with James Pierce being suspended, Jalen Walker out for the season, so they don't have the pass rush they would have. The Falcons could be in for a long year, seeing that the quarterback position isn't good, and the defense is probably going to struggle too, seeing that they're not going to have any pass. Really, they're not going to have any pass rush. They're not going to have any pass rush. So the Falcons might be in for a long year. That was my third takeaway. Number 2, I think Watson's got a really good chance to get this starting job. He started training camp terribly, but he has improved in camp in this new offense with Todd Monken. And against the Bears, I know he was against backups, he looked pretty good. And he definitely looked better than Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders did not look good in that preseason game. He threw a terrible interception. Right now, it looks like Deshaun Watson is going to be the starting quarterback in Cleveland. I think more because he's been decent in training camp, and Shedeur Sanders has just not been good at all. And then number 1, I watched Fernando Mendoza. I really like what I see. I think he's going to be starting by the middle. Of October, because I just don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to carry this Raider team, especially with this receiving core. I don't think he's going to be able to carry this Raider team. I know they'll be better. The run game will be better because Tyler Linderbaum was a really good signing. They got Ashton Genty. But with the roster the Raiders have, I just don't think Kirk Cousins at this stage in his career is going to be able to carry that team. So I think that Fernando Mendoza, seeing what I saw on Thursday, is going to be starting for the Raiders by the middle of October. Justin, your 5 takeaways from week 1 of the preseason.
My 5. Number 5 for me is where is it? I try not to react to quarterbacks, rookie ones, week 1 of preseason. But I really liked your boy Drew Aller with Pittsburgh.
That's a good one. That was close for me. I think Mason Rudolph's gone. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I think Rudolph's gone. Yeah, no, because I was going to say, because Rodgers is 43 years old. He's a statue out there. There's a Pittsburgh team that could be fighting for a wild card spot. Drew Aller might have to play a meaningful game this December, and I kind of liked what I saw from him.
You're going to say meaningful game? I think he wins. I think he can potentially win the backup job, and I think he sits this year. But I think he has a chance to be the Steelers starter in 2027. I think he's got a good chance, especially with what I saw on Thursday night.
Yeah, I liked what I saw. I was saying more he could play a meaningful game because just Rodgers 43 years old, that offensive line. So, maybe Rodgers misses a game or two.
Yeah, he can get hurt.
Yeah. And maybe it's a meaningful game. Number 4 for me was the Atlanta Falcons as well. Tua can't throw a ball past 5 yards anymore. That was bad. You mentioned the defense. And Sean Payton taking shots at the Falcons or fans or in halftime.
That was
so
classic Sean Payton.
That was brutal.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. He likes to
That
take
was
shots at the
brutal.
Falcons, seeing his history
Yeah.
with the Falcons.
He does. He does. But yeah, that team was brutal. They need Penix back as quick as possible. But yeah, Tua's got nothing left in the tank. Their defense was pitiful. It's going to be a long year, and I'm with you. It's going to be a long year in Atlanta, it looks like. Number 3, what are we doing, Arizona Cardinals? Why is Jeremiah Love getting 14 touches on preseason game? And now he's
First year head coach who has never been a head coach before, and you know that you
No.
can tell that Michael LaFleur's never been a head coach before.
No, and if I was a GM, I would have gave him a stern talking to, and he's looking for your coach because I would have chewed him on a new one.
Let me tell you, that could be a one and done there. That could be a one and done.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if that's a one and done there.
I wouldn't either because you need, you drafted that guy number 3 overall to get that was just mind-boggling.
Stupid.
Mind-boggling. Number 2, Joe Burrow will miss more time this year because that offensive line is still not better. That
you're right
one hit
about
he
that.
took.
Oh, you saw they couldn't even score on the Lions' backup defense. They couldn't, and yeah, Zach Taylor is an average head coach, but they need a real GM there. To me, they're the Cowboys of the AFC. The Bengals. They're the Cowboys of the AFC. They don't have a real. They're a middle of the road organization that's carried by a top quarterback. 2 years ago, they went 9-8. Joe Burrow played MVP level football and they didn't make the playoffs.
Yep, and I think they'll probably go right around 9-8 again because that first hit he took, that first sack, or the only sack he had. But again, he's like that off. You're watching that game. You're going, can you get him out of the football game before he gets hurt before the season even starts? It's brutal. They messed this up. And number 1, Cleveland has no hope. I get Watson looked decent, but it was a lot of checkdowns. And are you really going to play Deshaun Watson? I get you might have to, but like
your best option.
It is. But then their defense looked pitiful against the Bears. The Bears went up and down the field against you. The defense is supposed to be the strong point. I know some of it's backups, but
a lot of those were backups.
God,
I felt like,
but still, they just look. They have no hope. They just have no hope. Like just end it already.
Wow.
And then Shador, the Browns, it's just going to be such a long year for the Browns. And like, if they I get Watson looks like your best quarterback, but are you really going to trot him out there every week? Because if he actually has a decent season, are you really going to make the same mistake and pay him up again? Really going to do that?
No. They're going to look for a new quarterback, even though he didn't look that bad, as you said. He really hasn't proven anything as a first team defense yet.
No, and that's it. And and don't mess up. And if you do play him and he plays decent, don't mess up the tank for Arch because there's a couple other teams that are on that list. So
exactly,
don't mess that up.
Exactly. You definitely are right about that. So yeah. So my takeaways. I had the Bills offense, the Cam Ward, the Falcons, the Browns, and Mendoza, and you had Drew Aller, you had the Falcons. You had
Jeremiah Love,
number 1. Jeremiah Love, definitely. And what's your number 2 again?
Joe Burrow, and the Bengals.
Yeah, so all good ones. So yeah, we'll see what happens in week 2. But yeah, so yeah, the biggest takeaways were obviously the Browns quarterback situation, the Raiders. Jeremiah Love, those to me were the biggest takeaways in week 1 of the preseason, but we'll see what happens in week 2 of the preseason. That begins tomorrow night with Fernando Mendoza facing the Houston Texans in Houston. So we'll wrap up the show, though, talking about the AP poll that was released on Monday. The AP poll was released on Monday, and obviously the top 2 were the same with Oregon and Ohio State. You had 3. You got Georgia. You got Notre Dame at 4, and then at 5 you got Texas. And what do you say? You got 5 at Texas.
I was looking at the coaches poll for a second. Yeah, you're right. I was looking at the coaches poll for a second. I thought it was
and at 5 you got Texas. And the big question with Texas is are they a little bit? We're seeing everything they got returning. Are they too low at 5? That's the big question. And I'm gonna say no. I don't think so because Sarkisian's got to prove that he can win a big game. He's got to prove he can win a big game. He's 0-2 in the CFP. He's got to prove that he can win a big game. And let me tell you, I think all 4 coaches that are ahead of him, the only one you can make an argument for is Dan Lanning. The only one, but I think Dan Lanning might be better than him too. I mean, you look, Ryan Day's definitely better. Dan Lanning, you can make an argument, but I think he's better. Obviously, Kirby Smart's better, and then you
Marcus
got
Freeman.
Marcus Freeman. I
Better.
think he's better. So and he's got CJ Carr returning. So I think Texas is. I know Heather Dinnish didn't like where Texas was. She made her case known on the McAfee show where Texas was, but I think Texas is where they should be at 5.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, because I'm with you. Could Sark win a big game before we start touting them? I get all the March hype, and I think he's gonna. I thought he played better at the end of end of last year. They avoided a huge scare with their left tackle Trevor Gooseby, who's one of the better ones in the country, and it's just a bone bruise because he went out to practice on Monday. But I'm with you. Like, can they win a big game now? The opportunity's there. Week 2, Saturday night against Ohio State.
That is so huge right there. That's the show.
Yeah.
I think to make me feel confident that Texas could, do something big this year, I think they got to win that game. I think there's more pressure on Texas to win that game than there was Ohio State because we've seen Ohio State win a national title 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you because Ohio State's their toughest schedule in school history, but like you still know what the talent that they have. Ryan Day, I get it. Like, he's not helping himself by changing the senior day to week 1 this year. He's not helping.
Crazy.
Week
1 senior
I wish
day.
somebody gives some good advice.
I want to get it out of the way.
Wants no distraction from Michigan.
Exactly, because he saw what happened the 2 years ago against Michigan, but that led them to their national title. That loss.
It did. So it woke them up. But so I'm with you because they're Texas. You do have to go to Rocky Top late September. That Oklahoma game, it doesn't matter. That's always a 50-50 game. And then you also have to go to Baton Rouge. That more than likely is going to be a 7:30 kickoff on ABC. You're not getting out of that game with a win. And then is this finally the year A&M could beat them? Probably not. But it is Steve Sarkisian, so maybe they drop one. So I'm with you. Steve Sarkisian needs that week 2 game against Ohio State. So he needs to win one of these games to prove it to me because last year they were handed number 1. I didn't agree with it, and they didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Yeah. Exactly. And lost to Florida, too. They lost to a 4-win Florida team, too. Didn't make the playoffs and lost to a 4-win Florida team. So, yeah, they definitely were overrated going into last season. Now, we'll shift our attention to another team in the SEC, and that's Alabama. Right now, ranked 13th. New quarterback this year. Are they? Is it right to have Alabama out of the top 10? And I'm going to say yes because they were inconsistent running the football, especially in the SEC championship game against Georgia and in that Rose Bowl against Indiana. And their quarterback's not returning. So I would say yes. I think Bama's properly rated, being outside the top 10.
Yeah, I'm with you. First time since 08 that they're not in the top 10, which
crazy,
is wild. Yeah. But that's what they are right now. They're top, they do deserve to be number 13. I'm with you. New quarterback. I know they're really high on Keenan Russell. But you only got 3 starters back on offense this year. The tough schedule. And again, they were inconsistent last year running the football. I think they're going to be better at that this year, but also a team last year that lost to Florida State. Like, they were very Jekyll and Hyde. And the last time we saw them, they got drugged by Indiana. We knew going from, I really like DeBoer. We knew going to Saban DeBoer, but they lost all their toughness that Saban gave them for the last 2 decades. It's already gone. It's a new program and it's a new culture. I'd say it's a bad one, but again, you are getting off Saban here. So, you knew there was going to be a drop, but yeah, I think 13's right. And, that's big year for DeBoer. Even though he got paid, it's a big year for him. He's, the Bama fans don't like him.
And it looks like I think seeing what's going on with Bama, I know he signed the extension, but I think if he has a year where he misses the playoffs, I think he might get ran out of there. Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't know if the governor of Alabama gets involved like the Louisiana one did to get rid of Brian Kelly. Yeah. I don't know what the donor money is enough down there. I'm not sure. But I know at 8-4, the Bama fans will be clamoring for that. I wouldn't be surprised. It just depends if they have the money. I just don't know if they do.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's DeBoer, new quarterback. Yeah, it's a different culture. They don't have the physicality they used to. They're good, but they're not Saban good. There's levels to it. They're good, but they're not Saban good. And that's kind of been Alabama football the last 2 years. Because last year you saw in that playoff game against Indiana, and they got completely blown out by Indiana. Now, speaking of Indiana, they were ranked number 6 with arguably Kurt Signetti's done an unbelievable job turning that place around. They were ranked number 6. Are they too low? Are they too low at 6? And I'm going to say no. And here's my reason why. Number one, you lost a Heisman Trophy winner in Fernando Mendoza. I know they're getting the Josh Hoover, and I know he's good, but they lost a Heisman Trophy winner in Fernando Mendoza. And I know they're getting guys back on defense, but they lost a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball. So I think in my opinion, I think they're properly rated at 6.
See, I'd move him up a spot to number 5.
Oh, you're a Signetti guy. You were a Signetti guy.
I love Signetti. I even though he's at James Madison, I'm not a James Madison guy. Them in New Hampshire used to battle out in the CAA every year until they moved up to Sunbelt. But they just got 2 of their better defensive linemen back from last year. Stephen Daly and Kellen Wyatt. Their defensive line's going to be really good again. And that was a spot where this year where I thought they're going to take a little step of a drop. But now it's going to be better. I'll take Signetti over Steve Sarkisian any day of the week. And then also, I get you're losing Mendoza, but Hoover coming in did more than Mendoza did coming in from Cal. So, I'm not saying Hoover's going to go out there and go win a title or win a Heisman, but, Hoover's proven a little bit more, than Mendoza did coming in originally. The thing with Hoover is Mendoza did a good job taking care of the both football. Hoover, likes to hold on to a little bit more. We'll throw into traffic a little bit from time to time. So that's my worry. But if you can get what you got out of Mendoza, you can get that out of Hoover. I think Indiana to be sitting really pretty. So I'd move them up a spot. I think they've proven more than Texas has.
Wow. Oh, really? Wow. You put them at Texas. Wow. I just think Texas is better. I know, Signetti is definitely a better coach than Sarkisian, but I do think Texas is better on paper. And to say, yeah, Hoover's done more than Mendoza's coming into Indiana, but it's so hard to duplicate what Fernando Mendoza did a year ago for them. It's so hard to do that.
No, it is. It is. And there's a lot of pressure on Hoover to kind of to kind of live up to that. And I don't think he totally will. And, Indiana's schedule is tougher this year. They got Ohio State. Then you got to go to Michigan the week after. You got USC at home. You should take care of business, but then you got a late trip to Washington on the road. So their schedule's a little bit tougher as well this year. So I don't think they're going to duplicate going 16-0 this year. I think they'll be pretty good. But again, if those 2 teams played against each other, I take Indiana in a heartbeat just because of Kurt Signetti. I take them a heartbeut. On a neutral,
I still take Texas. I just think they're better on paper. I just think Texas, even though Signetti's a better coach, I still would take Texas because I think Texas is better on paper. But we know you're a big Signetti guy. You called it with Signetti. A couple of years ago, even when they were kind of surprising people. When we were under the radar in 2025, when they were 9-0, you called it with Signetti.
Yeah, I saw what he did at Elon. I watch a lot of. I don't watch as much as I used to. I have a betting model for FCS because the numbers are the number I can look at a line and go, oh, that's 4 points off. So I do follow a lot of FCS football. New Hampshire's in that, and I'm a big New Hampshire fan. So I've seen him all the way up, and I was like, this dude's impressive. This dude's an absolute winner. I didn't know he was under Saban's tree until he got to James Madison. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Saban, he didn't get his first coaching job at IU Pennsylvania until he was 40 and 45, something like that. So, he's been impressive. So I've always been a huge Signetti guy. Just listen to him talk, man. That first press conference, Google me, I win. And I was like, this guy's, guy, he's great. And what. They're going to beat Purdue by 80 this year because I don't know if you saw what that Purdue 80 he said a couple weeks ago.
I know. They're going to run it up. They're going to run it up on Purdue.
He's going to put an 80 on them.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting when they play. That's definitely going to be a blowout, and I think Indiana's going to win big there. So now we'll look at teams that are underrated in the poll and overrated in the poll, and we'll start with the underrated team. And I'll start, and I'm going to go with the team that Indiana beat in the national title game. I know I said this in the coaches poll too, but Miami at 7. I think they should be higher. With Fletcher back and then with Mensah, and they're going to have a favorable schedule. Mario Cristobal is a really good head coach. He's not as good as Signetti, but he's a really good head coach. I would have Miami in the top 5. I really would have. I think they should be in the top 5. I know they're at 7, but I think they should be in the top 5. Who's your underrated team?
Yeah, I'm with you. I got the U as well. For me too, because I think Mensah has a higher ceiling than Beck because Mensah is going to be able to throw the ball downfield. Beck didn't really do that a ton last year coming off the shoulder injury. And now you're really going to I know Malachi Tony was great catching those screens, but now you can have him run go routes, and Mets will be able to hit him downfield. So I'm really high in Miami. Yeah, you got Mark Fletcher back, one of the better running backs in the country, and their offensive line's a little bit of mystery. But the thing is, there's one thing I trust with Mario Cristobal, and that's his offensive defensive line. So I think they're going to be fine. And I'm with you, too. Like this, favorable schedule. They got that one big game in November at South Bend.
Yeah,
that's going to be a heck of a game. But I said this a couple weeks when we talked about the U. They don't win the ACC. They have to win the ACC this year. There's nobody in that conference that's stopping them. So I think they finally do it. It's going to take them 22 years, which I don't think anybody ever thought. But I think they finally get that elusive AC trophy that they've been looking for.
Yeah, you forget they didn't even make the ACC championship game last year. They made the national title game, which is crazy. Duke beat Virginia in the ACC title game last year, so it's crazy to think of that they didn't even make the ACC title game, but they still were 6 points away from winning the Natty. Now, most overrated team, and I'm going to go with LSU at 11. They play 4 ranked teams. I know Sam Leavitt is good, but it's a new quarterback, new coach. I like Lane Kiffin, but he's bounced around a lot. I think 11 is too high for LSU. I think they potentially could lose 4 games this year.
Yeah, LSU is number 2 on mine because, they have 50 new guys coming in. Sam Leavitt's been a guy who's banged up throughout his career. Can he totally stay healthy this year? That's a question mark. It's a tough schedule. I know Clemson's down this year, but everybody's chalking that up for a win. Yeah. I think they should win that game, but could be a little bit tricky. But yeah, you got Alabama, you got Texas at home at least. But I think it's a team that I'm with you. I think they missed the playoffs this year. I think there's too many unknowns. I see too many guys, and but mine was another team in the SEC. That's the Aggies. A&M.
Yeah, you're not an Aggies guy.
No, they played 7 of their 8 SEC games last year with the bottom 7 teams in the league. And then I've never been a big Marcel Reed guy. I know we played well against Notre Dame and they won that game last year, but it's a tougher schedule this year, a lot tougher. They lost some pieces. They lose both coordinators. I think losing Colin Klein's a big one, who's going back to his alma mater, K-State, to be the head coach. So I think that's a big loss, and I think A&M's schedule's tougher this year. Got to go to Death Valley. You go to Missouri, you should beat them. Of course, the SEC team's ranked number 25 in the poll.
That must annoy you. Missouri probably annoys you at 25.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can't put in like a Boise.
You want like a group of 5. You'd like a group of 5 being.
Yeah. Yeah, them and Navy. One of those 2 teams that would have they should have been at ranked. But yeah, so I think A&M's schedules 2 is tougher this year. So I think A&M. My hot take is they end the season ranked outside the top 25.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I could see that happening. I definitely could see that happening. Mike Elko's good, but he's not a great coach. So I definitely could see that happening. So it should be an interesting college football season. And it all starts next Saturday with Bill Belichick in Ireland. He'll be on another, national game to start. The funny thing is we'll talk about this next week, but it'll be like the most North Carolina football we'll probably see the entire season is Bill Belichick in that standalone game on it was open. It was Labor Day night last year. This year it's the game in Ireland this year. So should be an interesting college football season, and it all starts next week. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking about that huge series between the Yankees and Red Sox, recapping week 2 of the preseason, and talking about the college football opener with Bill Belichick, North Carolina Tar Heels taking on TCU. Have a great weekend, everyone.